going on over here? Testing. Can you hear me okay? Yo, how are we doing in Cleveland this evening? How about in the back, way there? Yo, Adrian. And just a little warm-up action here for you this evening. Got a lot more of the. Let me see here. Okay. Basically, what I'd like to do here this evening is go over a little bit about some of my background, some of my training, talk about some of my influences, and basically my whole overall concept about how I view drumming and music and so forth. And of course, I would definitely want to allow for plenty of time to take any questions that you guys may have about any of the above-mentioned things, be it about the band or whatever's on your mind. Feel free. There we go. I guess one of the key things for me in my concept of playing is that I've always tried to learn a lot about all different kinds of music and then try to incorporate other styles into this overall rock type approach. Because one of my main gripes, I think, is that for so long there's been this forever raging war about the rock drummers versus the jazz drummers, and everybody's so busy cutting each other down that nobody can really learn from each other. The rock guys say, "Oh, I don't want to listen to those jazz guys. They use little cocktail sticks and they barely tap their drums and they play at the Holiday Inn jazz brunches on Sundays and there's just no attitude, man. All that." So they don't want to hear anything about that. And then the jazz guys say, "Oh, I don't want to listen to those hard rock guys. They're barbarians. They break things, they break sticks, they break heads, they're just pounding on the drums, they break their cymbals, and they're just so savage, They have that point of view happening. And, meanwhile, nobody's learning from each other. So, I guess what I try to do as a young drummer in high school and so forth, I, listened to a lot of Neil Peart and Tommy Aldridge and all those guys, and I borrowed what I could from, some of their concepts, and at the same time, I guess upon getting out of high school, I wound up studying at the Berklee School of Music for a while, because I went to a stage where I was just, strictly into jazz stuff, the fusion stuff, all the contemporary players, from Billy Cobham to, Buddy Rich to a lot of the other, straight-ahead jazz guys and fusion drummers, and I just kind of submerged myself in that whole thing. And I found that when I went back to doing more of the straight-ahead rock stuff, I had developed from studying all that kind of music like a whole warehouse of ideas to draw from. And it really opened my mind up a lot, because I found that if you have, I think it's always better to have too many ideas and too much technique than not enough, because you can always reach in there and borrow some ideas, or you can have we'll get into some Latin stuff, and I'll turn out some different styles, and you guys can kind of pick and choose from some of the ideas that you like. But if you have that background, you can definitely take a little bit of this Latin stuff, a little bit of the funk stuff, and just kind of say it in your own way. But I think the more influence you have, the more original that you're going to sound. If you just listen to one guy all the time, you're going to sound like that one guy. So this is why I like to, talk about getting into as many different drummers as possible. So tonight we'll definitely, talk a little bit about, and I'll demonstrate some, fairly technical things, because I know that's what you guys came here to see tonight, right? You didn't see me get up here and yak all night. You want to definitely hear some chops and all that go down, so I'll do my best. Before we go any further, though, let me definitely stress, first and foremost, to everybody here tonight, all the drummers here that are looking to, whether to do it for a living or for the rest of your life or just to make some bread or whatever, or because you enjoy it, whatever. The bottom line, this is what I found the hard way. The bottom line for making a living in this business is, because it's down to one thing: can you groove? That's the bottom line. If you can't groove, you're not going to work. This is the sad reality that I ran across, because I went through a period where I did all these chops and I got into all this solo stuff and the polyrhythms and all that, and I love that stuff, and far be it from me to tell somebody not to improve their technique, but you can never lose sight of the importance of being able to lay down a solid groove. Because you know what? I found that no matter how many chops you have, I found all these guys, some years back, all these guys were beating me out of gigs. I go, well, how come this guy audition for something? I go, why did this guy get the gig? I blow him away. Because maybe he wasn't a really good technician. But the thing is, look at it from a guitar player standpoint, or a singer standpoint, or especially a bass player standpoint. Basically, when it gets down to the meat and potatoes of a song, they want somebody who can lay back and really groove, really make the music happen. So this is something that's very important to keep in mind. once again, all the chops is very cool. I definitely advocate that. But if you want to work, you'll definitely get hired. You know, if you're a really good groove player, and say you don't have a lot of the abilities for technique and all that, you'll definitely get more gigs than the other guys, because if all you can do is solo, and they can bring you out for 5 minutes a night, at the end of the night, okay, ladies and gentlemen, Joe Smith, you can do your drum solo, and they'll send you out of there and bring the other guy back on, And there's just not a big demand for that nowadays. So I think really to have the best of both worlds is the key thing. And always think, in terms of being musical. If you're playing, Judas Priest song or something, naturally you're not going to want to try to incorporate one of these Latin samba beats that we may get into tonight, But it is good to know, and it is good to try to, because like as a drummer, it's like you're developing a vocabulary. The more different kind of words or styles of music you listen to, the more you're able to say, the more you're able to draw from. People with limited vocabulary can only say certain things certain ways, and that's it. If you broaden your vocabulary, have more, different kind of things to draw in there. So, anyways, before we get into some more demonstration, let's go ahead and open the room up for a few questions to get started tonight. So, does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
What happened with the band?
What happened with the band? This is the first and foremost one tonight, right? Oh, my goodness. Let's see. I guess the simplest and most honest way I can answer that would be it's a lot like a relationship between like a man and a woman, right? Or boy or girl, whatever the case may be. It's like, you hook up, everything's cool, and you begin to, have a lot of the same type of goals and so forth as the other person. And you kind of, live and grow together with this person. And every once in a while you may hit a point or time where maybe you're thinking about going one way and she's kind of thinking in terms of another way, and you start kind of having disagreements. A lot of you may know what I'm talking about, maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6 months in the relationship, and you hit maybe another stumbling block, maybe 2 years in the relationship, and then maybe another, there's all these, you come to like different kind of crossroads where you really, each person has their own idea about what they want and what they want to do, and either you can compromise and work out the differences, or you have to go your own way. And I think that's a lot what happened with the band. We were, the band was together for 3 years, and we hit a point, I guess about halfway through this last tour that we did, we all just kind of had different ideas about, what we were looking for from the band, what we were looking for musically, things like that. Vinnie had, certain ways and ideas of how he wanted to do things, and, I guess we kind of had other ideas about it. So inevitably what happened was we got off the road, we went ahead and finished out our dates, and that was, to be honest, it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough playing every night, really trying to play your heart out every night, but knowing that, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, whatever, that the thing's going to break up, it's very tough, and we all were very much, I guess, tested for our, professionalism at that point. But basically what happened with me was we got off the road, and Vinnie, right away decided that, he was going to put together another project, and Mark and Dana were going to, do their project, and I kind of had been on the fence for the latter part of the tour because I didn't want to, take sides. I just said, let's just get through this, and I'll wait till I have more of a gut feeling about the right thing to do. So we come off the road, and I just, Vinnie wanted me to stay with him, and, Mark and Dana wanted me to go with those guys, and it's kind of like, your parents get divorced, who you go with, your mom or your dad type thing, and it was very hard for me. So basically what I decided to do was, for the time being, just kind of walk away from the whole situation, and take some time out this fall to do a lot more drum clinics, finish this a drum method book that I've been working on for a long, long time. I'll finally get that finished up this fall, do maybe an instructional video, and maybe in January I got a couple exciting things. Wish I could talk about what these possibilities are for me then. Unfortunately, they're still kind of on the negotiating tables right now, but it looks pretty much like I'll be doing another project altogether that I'm very excited about, and that's probably the direction I'll be going in. But one thing I have to throw in is that, it ain't over till it's over. I mean, I could turn up on Vinnie's record, I could turn up on Mark and Dana's record. I mean, anything can happen in this business. That's why I hate to say, yes, the band's broken up, it's all, because you never really know what's going to happen. But so that's pretty much how it stands right now, and I do want to throw in that it is definitely an amicable parting. I mean, everybody understood what was happening. It wasn't like, everybody is pretty much open to where everybody's head was at, and it was, everybody walked away as friends, so that's a cool situation there. So look at it this way, at least instead of, one band that will continue on, you maybe get 2 or 3 different things that spawn out of it that hopefully you'll like as much, so, or maybe better, who knows. What else we got? Yeah.
Yeah, you said you went to Berkeley.
Uh-huh.
Weren't you ever nervous that, even though you went to Berkeley, weren't you ever nervous that you sit around maybe like 35 and go, wow, I'm a drummer, that's all I am. Did you ever have anything to fall back on?
Okay, did everybody hear the question pretty much? He was asking, when I went to Berkeley, did I feel like I was ever going to sit around at 35 years old and wonder like, wow, I'm a drummer and that's all I am, and if maybe I ever thought about having something to fall back on, right? But my whole philosophy on that whole issue of having something to fall back on all that, and it's just my own personal convictions on it. Everybody has to, come to terms with themselves and figure out what feels right for you. But for me, my philosophy has always been, if you have something to fall back on, you're going to fall back on it because it's such a rough business that, you know, there's so many heartbreaks in it. You know, whether you're in a band, you know, sometimes you get so close to a deal and it falls through, or so close to this and it falls through, and you just get, every time you're down, you get kicked, you know, and then you get kicked again. You try to get back up, you get kicked again. I mean, this is the nature of the beast, and when you talk about pursuing this kind of business for the long haul, these are some of the things you're up against. And not to, you know, paint a black picture to you guys, but this is the way it is a lot of times, and I feel like on those dark moments, if you have like that, you know, day gig waiting for it, if you have something like that, then it's too easy to say, well, okay, maybe I'll do this just for a time being, and then hopefully something else will come up in the process. So maybe you'll cut your hair and you go do this other gig, and that just ends up setting you back that much more. So now listen, there's nothing wrong if you have a day job. So don't ever go out and quit their jobs tomorrow. Or quit, you know, I'm definitely not saying that, but you know, I think that when you're really full on into the situation, there's going to be a time sooner or later where you're going to have to break away from the securities of a steady situation like that. And you know, just because you have to dive in, because your competition is, you know, your competition right now is if you're aspiring to be like a hard rock drummer in a successful hard rock band, they're, you know, groveling in the streets of LA right now as we speak, you know, just, you know, squeaking by and trying to make things happen and so forth. And this is what I think you have to think about. So when I went into Berkeley, I went in with the intention already in my mind made up, saying like, this is what I want. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and there was no way I wasn't going to get what I wanted. And I think that's the attitude that you got to have. You got to condition your mind to think, this is what I want. I'm going straight for it. Nothing, and nobody's going to stop me. If I fall down, I'll inevitably get back up again. And that's all there is to it. So for me, the only kind of work I've ever done since high school was teaching drum lessons. That's the closest I ever got to like a day job there. And you know, it was very tough. I'd have to go take other kind of gigs. You know, I felt like if I was at least playing music, you know, back in Texas, I played my share of, you know, Mom and Pa's tavern and all that kind of stuff, and I played my little honky-tonk country gigs on the weekends to get some cash. And I did my weddings and bar mitzvahs and little, you know, cheesy parties and you name it, little, you know, jazz hour, cocktail, you know, all that stuff, man. I did it because I wanted to make a living playing music, and this is some of the sacrifices that I had to make. So, bottom line, what I'm trying to say is just focus in on exactly what you want and just go for it, man. Just go straight ahead for it. Don't even think about failing. Don't even think about doing something else. What else we got? Yeah.
I've got two questions, Bob. What's your view on two bass drums as opposed to one bass drum with a double pedal? And my second question is, what exactly do you do to practice your double bass technique?
Okay. What was that? We missed something? Okay, no. I was doing a good job. No, the double pedal thing. To be honest, you know, there's a certain, for the hard rock thing, there's a certain visual aspect of playing, and I happen to like the look of the two bass drums and all that. And to be honest, I haven't really sat in a room, you know, where I never really evaluated it that closely. I don't know what the physical, you know, musical, scientific, you know, deal would be about how actually it sounds with just one kick. And I've heard double pedals and all that mic'd and everything, but I don't know what the difference in sound would be. And I would venture to say that if you're doing a gig other than like a hard rock gig or something, you know, more like a top 40 thing or a jazz thing, whatever, then you could possibly get away with it. It depends if it, you know, how it works for you. Me, I just happen to like the double bass thing altogether. In terms of developing the double bass chops, I would say the best thing I ever could have done for my double bass chops was lose the left one for a while and really work on developing my right kick drum. Because what that enabled me to do is, you know, it helped me get my right foot fast enough to do certain single bass licks that have a kind of a sound of their own. And at the same time, it helped me do another, like this triplet lick on the kick drums very easily that I'll demonstrate in 1 second. But to get to the triplet thing, what I would suggest doing is single bass drum exercises, like just to develop the right foot. Say you have something like this, say a triplet structured exercise like this. 4 with the hands, 2 with the right foot. Uh-oh. Okay, I'll play quieter, I'm sorry. Okay. So we have something like this. Get that cooking to the kind of speed that is not as fast as you can go where it starts sounding sloppy, but where you're definitely starting to push it a little bit. You can start feeling that nice little burn in the back of your leg, right? And you want to get that happening because I'm a firm believer in a little bit of pain with your practice, okay? I think that's a way to develop the speed and technique and so forth in certain instances. You know, now if you're cramping up and you can't execute properly, that's a different ball game. But if like the fastest you could do that lick would be say, for argument's sake, 100 miles an hour, then drop it down to about 80 and sit there and hold it for 5 or 10 minutes. And before long, you'll have a pretty happening right foot. So you may do, this exercise and just hold it, That for you feels comfortable, and then just you hold it right at that speed. And once you get the ability to squeeze out 2 quick doubles, and by the way, I have my heel up on that execution there because I feel like you get more speed and power out of your bass drum when you have the heel up. And then you can squeeze in like these little quick little doublers like I was doing a minute ago. If you had something like those kind of things. So it's kind of like a little added feature, And also, if you want to do like some kind of a semi-double bass sounding lick, with the 2 quick doubles, but you have your hi-hat cooking. Things like that. It allows you to keep the momentum of the hi-hat, but then you got the right foot kicking in there. Your right foot up, this is all you gotta do, just drop in 1 left, and hence, you have this triplet lick. And just right, left snare is how I like to do it. Now with that, you can get all kinds of different things working. You can get, different kind of grooves. Stuff like that. You can do drum fills involving, like I said, 3 on the hands, 3 on the feet. All kinds of fun things. Okay, the other part of double bass, to answer your question further, would be the 16th note thing. Just doing basic grooves. What I found to be most effective for those kind of patterns is just monotonous exercise of doing those kind of grooves over and over and over again, just like the Jane Fonda workout program. Put on some headphones, listen to some grooves or something, and just do it like for 5-10 minutes. Just over and over and over again. Maybe you have to take it slow at first. The key thing to remember here is that better slow and steady than fast and sloppy, because a lot of times you hear it fast, so I want to play it fast, and you get impatient. You got to take everything slow and steady. I mean, figure if you took, if you spent, like 10 minutes a day, or say like a half hour a day, working on your double bass chops, what is that, 3-4 hours a week, 12 hours a month, it adds up over the long period of time. That's a long time to sit there and go do back it, So you can nail it, you can get it happening, but you just got to take your time and be very patient with the double bass technique. So. In short, it's just whatever that you hear yourself playing on double bass, do it very slow and always gradually, speed up with it. So, what else? Let's take 1 or 2 more, then we'll get into some more playing. Yeah. Okay, my philosophy on holding sticks is I like to do it. Is this a video camera or a regular camera? Video. Okay, anyways, what I like to do is what we call match grip. The same hand both ways. What I do is have what we call the fulcrum between the thumb and the finger like this, have the other fingers wrap around underneath it, and do exactly the same on the left hand. It's kind of like a halfway. It's not completely like this, and it's not completely over. It's kind of a combination of the two like that. So the thing to keep in mind, first and foremost is that if you're comfortable playing traditional grip, then by all means continue to play that way. And this is just how I feel comfortable. This is how I choose to do it. It's strictly a personal thing. I feel like the technical aspect of that, or the physical aspect of the whole reason that this grip ever got started to begin with was back in the George Washington days, as they marched down the streets in their old colonial drums and all that. They had to, the drums were at an angle as they carried them down the street. They were sitting, as they carried them across their leg at an angle like that. So the best way to hit the drum at that angle was to have your hand like this, where it naturally hits it at that angle like that. And then your right hand just comes up there and plays regularly. And I think that this was the start of how people began to hold sticks, and as with the advent of the drum set in the early 20s or whenever the first kits started coming out, people just naturally carried that technique, that rudimental oriented technique, to the drum set. And there's certain advantages I understand about playing straight ahead jazz and things like that by having your hand down there in a relaxed manner, and where they say, well, the right hand has its job, the left hand has its job, and it works out better. There is a certain amount of truth to that, but for me personally, I got very, very comfortable with doing the match grip, and I think there's something like, 8 different muscles when you go like this, but there's like 14 different muscles in your arm that you use when you go like that. So I definitely feel like, for my style of playing, I get more meat on it playing like that. And also, sometimes I'll do like left-handed, patterns over here, and my left hand, does a lot of up and down the tom things. I do different kind of stuff like that, so it's important for me to have, the match grip. So that's where I'm coming from there. Okay, let's take one more, and then we'll move on. Yeah. Okay, all systems go. Yeah, that was way before we broke it. We did that, I guess, beginning of the year maybe. Last fall. I'm starting to get I get mixed up on the months sometimes. But it was a ways back then that came out, and then we toured for a few months after that came out. And one of the last things we did was this the Nightmare on Elm Street video, which we did back in L.A. In the middle of the tour, we just flew in to do it, and we went back out on the road. And it's still pretty much business as usual with the records. It's unfortunate that one of the main elements that a band the best things a band can do to promote a record is to go out and tour. And if the band isn't currently together, it makes that kind of difficult, So I mean, it's out there. I think it's a good record. I hope that with the different exposure, the different things that have happened, people will continue to check it out and so forth. So okay, let's do this. I'll take some more questions in a minute, but let me go on and do maybe 10 minutes or so some just different kind of concepts. Hopefully which a lot of you guys can apply to your situations. Okay, this first thing I'd like to get into is what I call the power groove. Now this is particularly effective for all you headbangers out there, you heavy metal guys or hard rock guys or whatever that play in the louder musical situations. But of course this could be applicable in any musical situation really where loud playing is applicable. Okay, anyways, let's take a very basic quarter note type beat, and I'll play it first, a few bars of it very lame, and then we'll add a little power groove concept to it. So it's just a little simple beat like this. Okay, that's tired, right? So let's work on that a little bit. Let's get the right hand, and instead of just banging out regular eighth notes, like that, what I like to do sometimes is put a natural indentation in the hi-hat part. So instead of just going, real mechanical sounding, what I like to do is accent every other note, starting with the first one, so you have like this. So the downbeat's accented, the upbeat is you kind of catch it on the way up. So that kind of makes it groove a little bit nicer. Now keep in mind, you may have a producer one day that wants that quote-unquote drum machine type sounding hi-hat, so we'll be back to that again, but this is a personal thing I like to do is put that little accent in there. Okay, for the snare drum, I'm a firm believer in really digging in. So what you want to do is try a rim shot. This is where you put some of the stick on the rim and some of the stick on the head, like this. So from the back here, you get this nice little concussive effect. It kind of rings through your skull, right? And that lets you know that you're getting the most meat out of your drum there. So can you guys hear me in the back okay, way in the back there? Okay, cool. Go up. Okay, how's this? A little higher? How about these people in front here? They're going, yeah, turn it up. You're like 50 feet, about 50 yards back. Okay, how about this? This cool? Okay, is this better? Is it too loud for you guys up here? Okay, let's hang with it. Okay, so, yeah, I like to do the rim shot because, hitting the drum like that, getting the rim shot out of it, you get a lot more crack out of it. So, for instance, a lot of guys will say, well, why don't I just hit it like this, and I'll have my sound man turn it up louder. Well, the problem with that is the sound that he's turning up loud is that of a softly hit snare drum. So really the drums take on a whole other characteristic when you really lay into them. And one of of the key things with hard rock is to be very authoritative and have a lot of energy and attitude. Because remember, it's not what you play, it's how you play it. You can have two guys play the same beat, or another guy really digging in. It's the same pattern, it's the same songs, it's the same everything. But I think the one that has the most attitude and conviction and aggression in their playing is going to come off sounding better for that kind of music. Okay, for the bass drum, what I like to do is just simply pick up the leg and rear into it. Okay, I'm a firm believer in using as much of the body as you can in some of this kind of music, because when you're doing like an arena show or something like that, and even if you're in a hard rock band, you're playing a club, you should always be like you're playing at the what's the place? Public Hall? Is that the place here? Or Coliseum thing? Okay, whatever. It's always like you got 10,000 people out there when you play. That's the way I really believe. What is it? What's that? I know, I thought somebody said something. No, that's the way I think you should always play, is like you're really digging in for the big-time audience, because even in a small place, and that's why they call it arena rock, because it's meant to be played in arenas. So even if you're playing at, Little Susie's party down the street or something, it should still be with that same kind of attitude and conviction, I feel. And finally, with the power groove, we have the new little hi-hat, the snare, and the bass drum. I like to put some body motion into it, because if you can get some kind of a natural body motion happening, it kind of helps to reinforce the consistency of the pattern. If you're standing real upright and still, then I feel like that to alter the beat is all you got to do, just speed up your hands or your feet. Here, if you got the whole body grooving with it, then to alter the beat, you have to speed up all of those things. So it kind of helps reinforce the pattern a little bit better. So let's start with the lame way a couple times, then we'll work on the power groove. Check it out. So right away you can kind of get a different feeling from the two, ways of playing that. Okay, now let's take this whole approach a step further now. What I'd like to demonstrate is really how closely related a lot of the different styles are, okay? Let's take a rock pattern, maybe a little bit busier than that one, and I'll play it straight ahead for you first a couple times, then we'll introduce a new element for you. Okay, what I want to show you real quick is what we call syncopation. Now, syncopation is in a lot of funk music, a lot of fusion type stuff, and different kinds of stuff like that. And basically what happens with syncopation is, since we're all accustomed to hearing beats like on the downbeat, like on the 1, 2, 3, and 4, like that one, real straight ahead like that. What we do on syncopation is we kind of pull the notes of something else off of the downbeat and put them in other weirder places in the measure. So for instance, let's take the bass drum off of beat number 3, and let's put it on, say, the E of 4. Now what I mean by this, these funny little syllables, is like typically how you would count 16th notes is 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a... So what we're going to do is like place one of the other kick drum on one of those weird partials, namely the E of 4, and it gives it a whole other feel. So I'll play it 2 ways, or 2 times the first way, and then we'll do it 2 times or maybe 4 times, who knows, the syncopated way. Okay, so just one simple little change, and I'll make you see that it sounds kind of funkier now, because you're placing the emphasis off of the downbeat all the time. Okay, let's take it a step further. Instead of doing just like say 8th notes for that beat, let me introduce what we call ostinatos. Now an ostinato is just simply a 1-beat repeated figure. Okay, it could be something like this, something like this. It could be maybe just a downbeat thing, like, or maybe just an upbeat pattern, like 1, 2. Now, if you continue on with the beat like I just played there with the kick and snare, but add the right hand, it really enhances it. And they're doing a lot of, again, the contemporary jazz or the fusion stuff. So it'd be something like this. I'll do it a few times the regular way, and then we'll throw in one of the ostinatos. right away, you see from just a couple minor changes, we're getting into a little more progressive sounding patterns. Okay? Now this concept can go on and on. You can do any variation of, in fact, I'll just do a couple real quick for you. Let's take something a little more syncopated with the kick and snare. I'll just do a couple different ostinato patterns on maybe the hi-hat or the cymbal, just to demonstrate a couple different ideas. Have something like this. These are a couple quick examples of, different kind of syncopated patterns with the kick and snares and different things you do with your right hand. Okay, now let me show you, let's talk a little bit about Latin drumming. Now this is very interesting, it's very different, and it really builds the four-way independence with the hands and feet. The basic challenge to a drum set artist playing like a samba rhythm, as we call them, is that you have to try to emulate an entire percussion section, okay? So basically what you'll do, the basic feel for a samba happens in the feet. Back and forth between your bass drum and your hi-hat, like this. That's the basic feel for these sambas. Okay? Now with the right hand, you may have a more syncopated cowbell type pattern, but you can maybe play it on the bell of your right cymbal, so you'd have something like this. Okay, now with your left hand, you kind of move around between the snare and the toms and kind of get a quasi-conga part happening. So you may have this. So now all you got to do is just put them all together. Okay, now, a lot of you may be saying, okay, that's fine, but what does it have to do with the new Scorpion song my band is learning? Or what does it have to do with the metal stuff we're doing? Okay, probably in that form, not very much. Okay, you can do something like that in your drum solos or something different, but the cool thing about it is, by having the knowledge of that, you can maybe, take like a little part of that, as I'll demonstrate here. You can take like maybe the cymbal part and use it for a rock groove. Or maybe take the foot, the feet going back and forth and use it during a drum solo. There's certain ways you can integrate some of the Latin sounds in what you like to do. Let's take a straight ahead rock pattern like this, and then let's add that same, a similar type right cymbal part to it. Okay, basically what you have there is, you still got the strong 2 and 4 and all that happening on the snare. You got a real basic bass drum pattern, but you're able to incorporate, some of the Latin stuff on top of there. Okay, let's take it a step further. Let's have the left hand, let's do like an upbeat, type feel on the hi-hat, and have a real straight ahead pocket groove with the kick and snare like this. Let's say you're doing something like that, but you wanted to hear kind of like a Latin cowbell part with that. All right, all you do is let your left hand go back and forth between the hi-hat and the snare, and then leave your right hand open to do the cowbell part, okay? So you just got to, get that happening first, and then gradually add your right hand. So you got this. Okay, so if you get that cooking, what you can do is if you show up on a gig and there's a percussionist there, you can send him home, take his money, and do all his percussion parts by yourself that night, Now, seriously, let me show you one other example of like a real extreme approach of, really breaking everything up and I guess trying to head towards the outer limits of the four-way independence thing. And I have to say this. I think it's important that we as drummers try to strive to do more than just simply what is required from us on the gig. Because let's face it, in most of the hard rock stuff, it's just the basic, hard-hitting thing. And there's a reason for that, because that's what sounds good with that kind of music. That's why we do the simplistic grooves like we do in most cases. But I think there's something to be said for, really learning our craft, really trying to explore after that, 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, a half hour, an hour, whatever, really just trying to learn how to play the drums better and really try to expand on certain things, because you never know when you're going to need that. And furthermore, I think if you're overqualified for the gig from a technical standpoint, it's all the better, because the challenge shouldn't be every night when you're playing or in the studio that you can barely play your part. Like, okay, let me see now that I did this, and okay, what was it? Is it time? You shouldn't be struggling. It should become very natural. The challenge should be in listening to everything, because whenever you're doing that, you're not really listening to everybody else. You're zeroing in on your own part. You should be in a situation where what you're playing is pretty easy, but you're just trying to lock it in with the other members of the band. You're trying to lock in with the bass player. You're trying to lock in with the other musicians. You're trying to pay attention to the dynamic level, all those kind of things. That's what making music is all about. So in our practice time, we should really strive to, develop more than what we need. You always have that to draw back on. So check this out. Here's a hi-hat technique. If you want to get this kind of sound, but your hands are tied up doing other things, you can do like this heel-toe splash technique with your left foot. What that involves is simply literally splashing the cymbals together with your heel and then catching it with your toe. Okay, so again, that kind of creates a feeling of you have like 3 arms or something if you get the other 2 arms doing other interesting things. Oops, too much. Get the adjustments here. Okay, so this next pattern we'll have that cruising through it. And we'll go back and forth between that hitting the downbeat and then the cowbell on the upbeat. So you can have this. It's kind of like back and forth, like 1 and 2 and back and forth between the hi and cowbell. Okay? Now let's take a kind of a syncopated but yet spacious snare drum part and add to that. Now we got like 3 different rhythms happening there. All right, let's take a real busy bass drum part and throw it in there. Okay, now with that cooking, let's add the left hand to that now. Okay. Now, let's... In order to get that cooking over here, you got to free up your right hand to go back and forth between the cowbell and the snare with your right hand to keep those 2 parts in place. Your bass drum will still do the same thing. The left foot will do the open and close hi-hat thing. And then your left hand will be free to come over here to the timbales and do this Latin thing. So let's see what happens. Thank you. Okay, so I'm not really sure where you would apply that necessarily, but it's a fun thing to do at clinics. Okay, now seriously, it's something to kind of demonstrate. Let's move on ahead. In fact, speaking of which, let me get into a drum solo thing here real quick, where we'll feature like an independence type of approach to soloing. Let's kind of use some of the things we've talked about so far, and then we'll get into some more questions here in a second. But let's get the open and close hi-hat. Let's get the samba feet. Now let's bring in an ostinato on our right hand. Okay? And now that leaves the left hand open to solo, right? You can solo on your timbales, solo on the rotos, whatever. And it kind of creates the atmosphere of like a drummer and a percussionist playing together at the same time. So I'll do that at the beginning. In the middle, maybe I'll just do some, open improvisation on the toms while we keep the feet cooking. And then I'll close out with the same intro. So, I don't know, let's call this, let me see, how about a Latin improvisation in Cleveland. Okay. All right, let's have some more questions here. What else we have? Yeah.
When you're doing the Latin sambas, how do you break them down in these practices?
Okay. I'll tell you a good way to get into the samba stuff would be, there's a hand development book, a very famous one called Stick Control, which you may have heard of. There's just the first couple pages of it are very, very simple hand exercises. The key thing that I think to initially do is just to sit in a room for long periods of time and learn how to put your feet in what we call automatic pilot. And then when you've done that for a few days, or whenever you get comfortable with that, try doing the simplest of things just on the snare. Say, for instance, maybe just right, left, in that same way. You have to get used to the feeling of, like, say, for instance, the left hand hitting at the same time with the bass drum there. Things like that. But you got to break it way down. And the first couple times you try, you go, forget it. I never really want to learn how to play samba anyway. It's very discouraging. But I would say start with that. Then maybe the other thing would be like right, left, right, left. Same thing. Okay, now these kind of patterns translate to the drum set immediately. Let's take a combination of those. That's the same thing. I'm putting the right hand on the cowbell, left hand on the snare. Same thing is going like right, left, right, left. mechanical with executing it, but eventually you'll like accent certain ones on the left hand, and then leave others soft, right? What you'll find in this book, there's all these different kind of hand-to-hand combinations, and when you can play on your snare first with the feet, then you start applying them over here. And you're playing all that on top of your feet there. Then gradually what you can do is get into things where maybe you'll divide it up around the toms. So this is the basic way to get started with the sambas like that, is just get the hand thing and be able to separate the hands from the feet. Because eventually what I do when I do a lot of the samba beats is all have the feet do that, but I'll do just completely separate rhythms altogether. So sometimes the hands will hit together. See, in that approach, the hands never hit at the same time. It's just either the right or the left. But the next step up would be just to be able to hear rhythms in your head. And if you can read music and you fool around with writing, and if you write out each individual part, your right hand part and then your left hand part, you can see how they match up. Or maybe sometimes it'll be just the right hand, just the left hand. Maybe sometimes they'll hit together. You can, I analyze it that way. But I think the stick control method with the feet underneath is a really good way to get you started there. Okay, what else we got? Way in the back. Advice on tuning. Basically, what I like to do is just tune the top head and the bottom head at the same pitch. That's what I do. Now, also keep in mind, I don't use any muffling either. I just let the drums ring wide open. I usually put something in the bass drum, maybe a piece of a tissue with the duct tape or something like that on the snare to cut out a little bit of the ring. But I like to have the drums ring wide open, and this is the sound I like. Now, you may be working with a producer or an engineer if your band goes out and plays live or something that likes things a certain way. They may like a lot of deadening on the drums. They may not like it, and sometimes you have to compromise, because it's better not to be bullhead and say, well, this is my sound and all that, and then sound like hell through the PA there because the guy doesn't know how to deal with your sound. Sometimes it's cool to work with other people, but in general, in tuning, I like to just tune the top and the bottom the same. I like white heads. Here's the situation when I do go out and do the clinics. I use different sets of drums in each place, so it's always like a different kind of a thing. But here we got pins, which I think sound pretty good tonight. Usually I'll use the white ambassadors, the Remo ambassadors on top, the rotos, which I faithfully log everywhere I go. I'll put the pinstripes on them, and which, by the way, they're in bad. Oh, look at this! Oh my goodness, it's all dented up. So yeah, just the pins over here, and I use white heads on my timbalas also. Okay, what else we got? Any other? I'm gonna have to start calling names. I'm gonna pull out the little ticket boxes. Any other questions? Okay, well, how about some more? Oh yeah, in the back. Do I like live or studio better? What's my preference? I'm definitely a live man all the way. I just simply can't get enough of the road. I could never get burnt out. In fact, I wish there was a way we could, it took like a week to do an entire album, so you just come in for a week, do the record, and go back on the road again, I'm the kind of person that I never really settled into, my own little homestead and my own little thing like that, so, I like to always move around and play different places and play every night, and I never get burnt out on it, So definitely the touring situation for me. Do we have any others tonight? Yep.
How come you don't hear any more decent drumming in today's music? I mean, did they come and tell me you can't do that stuff?
I mean, how come we don't hear any decent drumming in today's music, you mean? Oh, very simplistic. We're in the 70s where everybody was riffing out and all that all the time. Now it's real straight ahead. I believe that the reason for a lot of that is I think the drum machine has greatly influenced that. The drum, with people using drum machines to write with, and with them getting very sophisticated with the machines and the parts and all that, I just think that it's becomes a part of the music now to have that real straight ahead groove. If you remember, like back in the early 80s, I guess, right, with Def Leppard and some of the, you remember when it kind of, when production went way up. I think that's another good point. With really big sounding bass drums and really big sounding snares and the huge toms and all that, and you get all this ambience and overring and all that. I mean, if you play like that on that kind of drums, it really muddies it up. I think for like the contemporary rock stuff, it's so much. I mean, if you listen to the dynamic level of like an old Aerosmith record, and like say the new Def Leppard album, I mean, the bass drum is right in your face, the snare is right in your face on the Def Leppard stuff. But back with the Aerosmith stuff, you know, it was kind of back in the mix a little bit. He could do the quick little riffs and the little ghost notes and all that kind of stuff, and it didn't get in the way. So I think that a combination of, you know, the production and the drum machines and all that have definitely simplified, you know, the playing. And I agree with you to the extent of, you know, that yes, the drummer's role is very limited technically, and that's part of why I'm on a little crusade now to, you know, for that reason. Okay, just because what we do on a gig is very limited doesn't mean that you as a drummer or player should be limited. You know, there's a certain artistic side, I think, to, you know, just playing the drums. That's what I like to talk about. Does that pretty much answer what you're looking for? Cool. Out front, we had one.
Yeah, do you use the toe heel method on your bass too?
On the bass drum, just heel up. And I just play with the toe, I just keep the heel up all the time. So, yeah, behind him.
How do you get your doubles so fast or so good?
Okay, which doubles?
All around the kit.
I do a lot of practice pad stuff. I like to get the practice pad set up in front of a TV set and just go to town with it, man. I've done all kind of different things, you know, to develop my hands. And I think, you know, a lot of hours is the only way to get around that. And again, what you do on the practice pad translates over to the drum set, you know. I may have it on, you'd be watching TV, and I may say, you may have it like, you know, on Leave It to Beaver or something, I might say, for example, and I'll say, okay, for the duration of this entire program, I'm going to sit there and just do doubles the whole time, you know. And I'll do that so I can continue on for the half hour, you know. Or I may say, okay, for the first little part where, you know, Beaver comes in and you got in trouble at school and all that, until the first commercial break, I'll do doubles. Then when he comes back and it shows Ward at the principal's office, to the next commercial break, I'll do like paradiddles or something. You know, I just try to break it up like that, and like, you know, things like that, because I feel like when you're talking about just raw technique, it's okay to sit in front of a TV set and watch the movies and all that, you know, and just to work your hands. And if you're on the phone, for Christ's sakes, pick up a stick, and while you're talking on the phone, have your little practice pad there. Or whatever, you know, I mean, there's all kind of things you can do. If you're hanging out driving around the car and you really want to get some hands, try this here. This is the thing where you grab, I like to do it butt end actually. Grab the top of the stick here, the same way you grab the stick, and hit on your forearm like that. You can still do all, you know, all the different things, the doubles, paradiddles. Here we go. You know, whatever, any kind of rudiment you want to do normally you can do, but this is, you can take this wherever you want, you know. And so keeping that in mind, it just takes a lot of hours. I think that really helps out the situation, you know, as far as getting a lot of time in your belt, just technical exercise. And then when you come to the set, you're that much better off, because you can go all the fast, you know, all the stuff around the toms real fast. You know, it's not as much arms as you may think it is. It's some, but if your hands can't keep up with the arms, then they could do no good, you know. So let's take one or two more, then we'll get into some more playing. Yeah, in the middle. Oh yeah, the question about weight training. I'll tell you, there's so many myths about lifting weights. For, you know, for so many years, it's been, I don't know if you lift weights, it'll tighten you up and slow you down, and it does this, and you know, you cramp up your forearms, and you grow hair on your palms, and you know, all that kind of stuff. For me, you know, I experimented with it at first, and immediately after like 6 weeks of just fooling around, I used to do like the machines and some of that stuff at first, and immediately I noticed I had a lot more power, I could hit a lot harder, had a lot more endurance. Things like that, and so I eventually just went hog wild with it and started doing all the free weight stuff, and you know, training with the big old, you know, bodybuilder guys and all that, and just got hardcore into it. And for me, it's turned out to be really good. In addition to help my drumming, it's a good release also, because you're on the road, get up in the morning, hit the gym, and it's a way. It's kind of a therapeutic thing. You're in the gym, you're pumping iron, you're clearing your mind because you're focusing on that one heavy weight that's about to, you know, knock you through the bench there, you know, and but at the same time, you're helping your drumming out a lot, I believe. And this, you know, in doing that, I'll tell you, man, there's so many things that I learned about, you know, keeping your body fit and together and so forth, and how it relates to drumming. I mean, it blew my mind when I really got into that, because, you know, for the kind of thing I do, you know, in hitting really, really hard throughout the entire show, because, I mean, obviously when you're live, you got the wall of amps on either side, and you have 10,000 people in front, you tend to dig down deep, you know, and in the same way that I advocate having too much technique, I always try to, or I should say an overabundance of technique, I advocate having an overabundance of like physical energy, power, and stamina, because nothing's worse than like doing a drum solo. Okay, so you're doing a solo somewhere at a club, and everybody's really starting to respond, and you're giving a little more, and they're giving a little more, and then you get tired. You know, oh, my arms are sore, I've got to stop for a minute. You know, I mean, this is lame. You know, I think that you should really, if they want more, then you give them more. You know, you have it in reserve to do so. You know, and from weightlifting, the lower back pains and all that of sitting on a stool all the time. You know, 4 hours in a club. You know, when I was doing the club stuff. You know, the cover bands and all that. You know, sometimes my lower back would bother me, or especially on my arms or whatever. I mean, none of those problems anymore, you know. And along with the weight training, I really learned a lot about, you know, proper nutrition and all that too. I mean, this is something you got, nutrition, or just, you know, you know, the donuts for breakfast and the lunch food at the school or whatever, you know, Snickers bar or whatever for lunch, and then you know, McDonald's for dinner. And this is a well-balanced diet because all the four food groups are there, right? You know, you get you a glass of milk at school. Your fruit and vegetable thing is I guess the ketchup on your hamburgers, the little fruit group thing, or the vegetable group. You know, you got your meat group for the hamburger, and you got your bread and cereal group for the. You know, I mean, I learned so much about that and how it really does relate. You know, I mean, not to turn this to like a health food seminar tonight, but I mean, you know, seriously, I found that what you eat before you play is very important. You know, I never really knew that. I never knew that if you eat like candy or sweets or something like that an hour or so before you play. I mean, obviously you eat like a candy bar and it gives you a little boost, but it drops your blood sugar level down. You feel tired. You feel weaker. You know, so you have to eat more of that. It's like a vicious cycle. So if you eat a candy bar before you go play, or if you go eat like, you know, a greasy ass hamburger or something before you go play, you know, that's going to be sitting right here, you know, in the turning point. Doesn't know whether it wants to come up or go down type thing, you know. And you know, so I learned about, you know, carbohydrates, eating these you know, stuff like spaghetti and rice and, you know, foods like that. And you know, an hour or two before you play, it gives you a lot of energy. You know, fruit is easily digestible. You eat some of that, and it gives you the energy. You know, and it really made a big time improvement over, you know, my playing. I mean, now the combination of, you know, the exercise and the dieting and all that. I mean, I never get burnt out. I never get burnt out on the road. I can go, you know, 3-4 hours of sleep a night for an extended period of time if I have to. My energy levels, it stays high throughout the day. You know, it's a whole new turnaround for me, you know. And the final thing in relation to this that I'd like to mention is the fact that as of, let me see, last month in September, I celebrated 12 years of sobriety, meaning not a drop of alcohol, a hit off a joint on any kind of drugs of any kind for 12 years. And the significance there is that, you know, I think a lot of times people get the misconception that all the quote-unquote big rock guys are, you know, party animals and all that. And I was in for, you know, well, actually not a rude awakening because I kind of knew the inside story when I went out and hooked up with Vinnie and all that with, you know, that whole scene. But, you know, the bottom line there is you cannot continue on, you cannot enjoy a long-term career in this business and do drugs and be, you know, drinking like a fish and so forth. You just can't do it. I mean, it's been proven time and time again. You know, we've lost so many great musicians to drugs, you know, that have become famous and others that should have but didn't, you know. And nowadays, it's almost a prerequisite out there. I mean, I talk to musicians all the time, and there's a new trend going on heavily out there. People that are really, I mean, I'm not saying they're as fanatical about being absolutely clean as I am, but they're certainly cutting back on, you know, they're blowing off the cocaine, and they're blowing off the smoking dope, and they're blowing off the excessive drinking. I see it every day out there. There's some people that you would be very, very surprised are doing that. You know, and oftentimes people say, hey, Bobby, you know a good drummer, you know a good guitar player or something. I said, yeah, I know a guy. He's pretty happy. Well, what does he look like? Oh, he looks cool. He's got the long hair. Yeah. Does he play good? Yeah, a lot of chops. Does he do drugs? No, he sure doesn't. All right, give me his number. I mean, it's like one of the things that people look for nowadays because they know if you take into the band somebody that has any kind of a problem with that you're going to have many, many more problems down the road with this person. So it's just something to think about. I mean, you know, I guess the bottom line what I'm trying to say is that everybody in this room has a choice. You don't feel like you have to do it. You have to get higher. You have to do all that stuff because you think everybody else does it. I mean, just keep in mind that you do have a choice on, you know, how you want to live your life in that area. Okay, let's take one more, then we'll do some playing. What else we got? Nothing else? Okay, let me talk. Oh, yeah, right there.
This might be a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Okay.
Is it stick wrap for grip or to protect your hands from blisters?
Basically, for the grip of it. He's asking about why I use the stick wrap. What I found with the blisters is sometimes if I've went in a period of time without, you know, playing with the band or something, I start playing with the band again, I will, you know, my skin will start tearing a little bit. What I found that really worked for me, because like I get blisters, I put the Band-Aids on and leave them on all the time, and I found that it would never really heal. It would stay tender underneath there, so the next day when I go back and start bashing again, it would never really heal. So what I found, if you have a problem with that really worked for me was, if you get the blisters, you know, put the Band-Aids on while you're playing. As soon as you split for rehearsal, you know, after rehearsal, take them off and let it breathe, let the wound heal that way. And then the next day when you got to play again, it probably won't be healed all the way. Put the Band-Aid back on again and really protect it that way, you know. So, okay, let me talk a little bit about my equipment here tonight. This is obviously a full set of Sabian cymbals tonight, and you know, people ask, hey, how come you play Sabian? How come you play Sonar and all that? And I just got to be honest with you, man. I mean, you know, I'm endorsed by the products, by Sonar drums and Sabian cymbals, naturally. And one of the dream come true things for me was from, you know, I always wanted to be able to pick and choose whatever I wanted. I'll take this, I'll take that, you know. And I had the opportunity to pretty much do that when I joined, you know, the Vinnie Vincent Invasion because of Vinnie's exposure and his visibility with KISS. You know, the companies felt like this was going to be a pretty high-profile gig. And at that time, when we secured the endorsements, we already had tours lined up with Alice Cooper and Iron Maiden and all that, so they felt like their gear was going to be in front of a lot of people. And this is, any company naturally is going to think this way. This is the common, business way to think. And oftentimes it isn't so much the player's abilities as much as it is the visibility, aspect of the performer having their product in front of a lot of people. That's the bottom line. So what I did, I said, well, if I have this, this once in a lifetime chance to be like, a kid in a candy store here, I'm going to really try to find the best products I can, And with Sonar, I mean, I'd always known, that Sonar was always the elite, the drums that blew everything else away, the best hardware, the best craftsmanship, all that. They're the best money, the best drums that money could buy, or that money couldn't buy because it was always so damn expensive, right? But I mean, it was certainly, great equipment, and so that was pretty much, and in hearing the drums and really getting a first-hand look at them compared to some of the other companies, I definitely knew that without question I wanted to get the Sonar thing, if they would have me employed there. And with Sabian, at that time, Sabian especially, I guess still is to some extent kind of like the new kid on the block when you got, the Zildjian and Pisces thing. And I said, I want to give it a fair shot. So after rehearsal one day, me and my drum tech went in there, and we had a full set of Sabians and Pisces and Zildjians. And I said, I want to hear this out, because I used to use like a combination of Zildjian and Pisces in my set. So let me hear the new cymbals, let me hear the old ones, brand new ones, all hand-picked from the factory rep and all that. So I put them all up and went to town on each cymbal setup. We changed each entire, side-to-side tests and all that. And what I found was a very, very shocking reality here, because I found that with the other two, in other words, if you're hitting in the cymbal, like say a level of intensity, like say 6, and then 7, and then even harder, like 8, and then you really wear back, 9, this, in other words, each one being harder hit. I found that once you got to about, 7 or 8 with the Zildjians and Pisces, that's as loud as you can, that's the motion you get out of the cymbal. The cymbals seem to be only capable of a certain, volume level. What I found with the Sabians, whatever I gave it gave me right back. They had this explosive sound to them. I couldn't believe it. And even the way the sound was dispersed, they just seemed to explode. That's the only way I can explain it, especially in comparisons. We put like a Sabian here and a Zildjian here, and it was really a big difference, So that was one of the reasons I just felt like it was the best sounding cymbal, and that's why I decided to go with them. And since I found that these cymbals, I picked out 10 cymbals and went on the road, and I just could not get these things to break, man. I mean, I would try, night after night, I'd be well, and they just would not break, I couldn't believe it. And I guess maybe in the past 2 years, there's been 2 cymbals that have got like a little hairline crack in it or something that I still wouldn't even hardly notice. My tech was, "Hey Bobby, look, you finally cracked one, all right." But and this is like really wailing on him, And if I'm like a starving artist or something, I certainly wouldn't. You can't be buying cymbals every week, so had that come up, I could definitely still play the cymbal, But I'm very happy with them, and I just think that what you got to do is really put them up against the other cymbals and hear for yourself how good they sound. So I'm really happy with my association there. Let me get into some more playing for you tonight. How about some double bass type stuff? We got a double bass crowd tonight. Okay, let me do something for you tonight. This is called, it's like kind of like a drum composition, if you will. It's called Pedal to the Metal. And what it is, it's you'll hear like kind of like a real groove-oriented pattern that will be going on at the beginning, kind of like a song structure, like a verse-chorus type thing that you'll hear for the verse over here. I'll do kind of a semi-Latin type thing with the hands, but I'll keep the double basses cranking for you during that part. And then in the middle, we'll just kind of get into some free-form improvisation type stuff. Whatever happens, happens, and then I'll return to the little form thing at the very end there. And hopefully you like it. This is called Pedal to the Metal. Alrighty. Okay. What other questions might we have this evening? Take a few more questions and then maybe we'll think about calling it an evening here. Up front here.
What kind of sticks are you using?
Okay, the sticks I am using are the ProMark, and they're a special design that ProMark has been kind enough to make for me. They're, I guess actually the Bobby Rock model stick, but what it is they go out, they find an oak tree, they shave off all the limbs, and then they box it up. Actually, what it is kind of like a cross between a 2S and a 3S in thickness, which are the big marching sticks, but yet it's a half an inch longer for that damaging momentum. So they're kind of in the trial stages right now, but probably at the first of the year to be able to get them at most places. So, namely, Midway Music here. Okay, what else we got? Yeah.
In your band or whatever, when you have a force, how do you manage to get that full sound on stage as opposed to like a 50 minute?
Okay, the question's about filling out the sound when you got a 4-piece band and one of the guys sings guitar, bass, and drums and all that. It's just it's something that you have to sacrifice during the guitar solos. Plain and simple. There's no way you can really substitute the rhythm guitar part, but hopefully what you're gaining by that is a little more flexibility within the drums and bass. Maybe do a little bit more things together during the solos. It's just a different type of sound. It's like Van Halen versus the Scorpions type approach to playing. And if you decide to go four-piece like that, and that's one of the unfortunate things you kind of have to work around, I think, that situation. Any kind of tap water or something? Thanks, buddy. Styrofoam cup, something. Okay. Right up here.
Has there been any drummers that influenced you?
Drummers that influenced me. Well, there's just so many kinds of music, so many different guys that I like. It's hard to nail down. For the rock guys, and like I said, the Pert and the Aldridge influence was definitely there when I was younger. Then we had, Billy Cobham. So many different guys. And nowadays I like Steve Smith. I like Vinnie, Terry Bozzio. There's so many really happening players out there. I try to, learn a little bit from everybody, as much as I can. So that's the thing. I'm the kind of person in the car that I constantly am switching the dial, and I just listen to all kinds of music and try to check out a lot of different kind of records and stuff like that, Okay, what else do we got cooking? In the back. What was that? This actual setup right here, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 18, at the 224s. Have like an 8-inch chrome snare. So this is pretty much the type of the format that I'm using, live and in the studio as well. So, yeah, in the middle. Do I prefer chrome over wood snare-wise? For me, actually, in the studio, I like brass snares because I seem to really, really cut. But in general, I like the chrome a little bit better because it tends to have more of a sharper cutting sound. But the woods can be really happening also. There a lot of times you get more of a warmer sound, but you get a real thick sound out of there. So it's just a matter of, checking out the differences and seeing what you like better, So, okay. Any other questions this evening? No questions. Oh my goodness gracious. Let me see. I guess we've covered pretty much a lot of the different things there are to cover, I guess, here. What's up, buddy? Let me do this then for you. What's that?
We want Adrian.
Adrian. No, okay. Well. How about, what if I just play some, here comes some water. 1 second, please.
All right, buddy. Thanks a lot, man.
Okay, let's do this then. How about if I just get into some playing then this evening? We'll kind of wrap things up a little bit. What I'll do is after I finish playing, I run in the back and just kind of dry off a little bit. and I'll like meet everybody over back back behind one of the counters or something. I'll be happy to answer any more questions that you may have about whatever's on your mind. And if there's anything you want me to sign or whatever, I'll be happy to do any of that kind of stuff. So let me say that I'd like to thank Sonar and Sabian and Bob and everybody for bringing me down this evening, and all my buddies here at Midway Music for having me come in. And I got to tell you, it's always a pleasure to play in Cleveland. I just distinctly remember the times we played here. There's always very, very out of control crowds here. That's how much I can remember. I guess we did the music hall part, right? It's like two different. It's in the same thing, but it's two different buildings or something, right? Or two different rooms. We did the music hall one time, and then we came back, like, I guess a month or two later, and did the other big side, and both times it was a really warm reception, warm reception. But that was always a lot of fun, always a good audience here in Cleveland. So I look forward to, making my way back down this way again soon, and another project that hopefully you guys will be hearing about in the next month or two. And again, I'd like to thank everybody for dropping by this evening, and if you hang out afterwards, I'll be happy to talk with anybody, whatever's on your mind there. So let me just get into a little open solo format here, and just kind of let whatever happens, I guess. Maybe I'll cover some different groove ideas. Maybe in the middle, let's get into some kind of off the wall. So I did a track on the new album, on the CD only, a thing called The Meltdown. And it was like a very bizarre drum solo type thing. It just came out on the CD. And so it has a lot of like polyrhythmic things, a lot of different things like that. So maybe in the middle we'll get into some of the weird kind of stuff like that. And close out with something else. Who knows? Who knows what will happen? Let's just start playing and see where it may go. But thanks again very much, and we'll see you guys in a few. Thank you very much. Thank you.